Putin has fostered closer relationships with Russia's neighboring countries and strengthened alliances with Syria and Iran. His focus is on countering the Western world order, and it seems to be paying off. With 17 years in power, he has positioned himself as one of the most influential leaders globally. To grasp how one individual can exert such significant control over his nation, we must look back at the chaos and corruption that engulfed Russia following the collapse of the Soviet Union. When the Berlin Wall fell, a 40-year-old Putin was serving as an undercover KGB agent in East Germany. The Soviet Union disintegrated into 15 countries, including the new Russian Federation. To Putin, Russia had lost 2 million square miles of territory, which he later described as the century's major geopolitical disaster. Putin lamented that tens of millions of his compatriots were now outside Russian territory. The new government had to sell off nearly 45,000 public enterprises, including energy, mining, and communication companies that the communist regime had operated. The economy was in freefall, and chaos ensued, leading to these companies falling into the hands of a few extremely wealthy individuals known today as Russia's oligarchs. Meanwhile, the new Russian state struggled to establish itself. Boris Yeltsin, Russia's first president, faced widespread unpopularity due to his cooperation with the West, compounded by his alcoholism, which many Russians saw as an embarrassment. To maintain power, he relied heavily on the oligarchs, ceding significant political authority to them. This graph illustrates the growing inequality following the fall of the Soviet Union, marking the entrance of Vladimir Putin into politics. After leaving the KGB in 1991, he became deputy mayor of St. Petersburg, where he favored friends and allies in the private sector, helping them create monopolies and regulating competitors. This quickly made him a favorite among the oligarchs. Soon, he built a network of support comprising oligarchs, prime bosses, and fellow former KGB officers. With their support, Putin quickly rose to the upper ranks of the new Russian state. In 1999, President Boris Yeltsin appointed him as prime minister, despite Putin being relatively unknown in national politics. A staunch nationalist, Putin was concerned that Yeltsin was allowing the US to dominate Russia and that NATO, which had long aimed to contain Soviet influence, would expand into the newly liberated countries encircling Russia. Putin's goal was to establish a strong Russian state, one that would be stable domestically and exert greater influence over its neighbors. He soon had the opportunity to act on this ambition. Amid the post-Soviet chaos, violence escalated in Chechnya, a region that had informally seceded from Russia in the mid-1990s. Chechen warlords and terrorists were invading Russian territory, culminating in a series of bombings in August 1999 that killed over 300 people across several cities, including Moscow. As the new prime minister, Putin blamed the Chechen separatists and vowed to avenge Russia. His public appearances on television rallied the population, boosting his approval ratings from 2% to 45%. Journalists later suggested that Russian security services may have been complicit in the Moscow bombings to bolster support for Putin. A closed-state investigation quickly dismissed these theories, paving the way for a popular and devastating war in Chechnya. Russian bombing leveled Grozny, resulting in an estimated 80,000 deaths, and within a year, Russia regained control of Chechnya. In December 1999, Yeltsin resigned, making Putin interim president, and by May, he won the presidential election during the bloody campaign in Chechnya, beginning to mold the Russian state to his vision. Patronage and corruption remain key tools for Putin, who swiftly suppresses the oligarchs. Supporters are rewarded, while dissenters are eliminated. Former oil magnate and Kremlin critic Mikhail Khodorkovsky, once Russia's richest man, was sentenced to 14 years in prison on charges of embezzling oil. This was essentially a vendetta by Vladimir Putin against those involved in opposition politics. With the oligarchs subdued, he could pursue his vision beyond Russia's borders, enjoying relatively good relations with the US, even vacationing at George W. Bush's summer home, where he remarked, "I looked a man in the eye. I found him to be very straightforward and trustworthy." But things soon changed. In August 2008, Russia invaded Georgia, a former Soviet republic, showcasing aggression on behalf of pro-Russian separatists, and quickly annexing 2 small regions, which drew widespread international condemnation. Interestingly, Putin was not president during the invasion. The Russian constitution allows for unlimited total terms, but restricts consecutive terms. So he resumed the role of prime minister while his hand-picked successor, Dmitry Medvedev, served as president. He publicly criticized Medvedev for failing to veto the UN Security Council action and announced his candidacy for president, winning the 2012 election by an absurd margin. In justice, Dmitry remarked, "This outrage can't continue." "I'm here to say no to Putin," he declared as Putin began his third term amidst chaos. Doubling down on his authoritarian governance and militaristic strategy, Putin showcased a mastery of information, maintaining strict control over Russian television and effectively managing the news since first taking office in 2000. When Obama was elected president in 2008, he sought to reset relations with Russia, achieving some progress, particularly in limiting nuclear arsenals. However, Putin remained paranoid about U.S. intentions, especially regarding American interventions in the Middle East, particularly in Libya in 2011. All news outlets became state-owned propaganda machines under Putin's regime, which controlled stories to portray him as a strong leader. In 2012, he intensified crackdowns on human rights and civil liberties, notably launching a fierce campaign against the feminist and gay rights group Riot. Riot's most notable performance was their punk prayer at the Christ the Savior Cathedral, where they shouted profane remarks, leading to the conviction of 3 members and their 2-year prison sentences. At the same time, Putin bolstered his aggressive foreign strategy by providing weapons and fighter planes to support dictator Bashar al-Assad in Syria's brutal civil war. Putin's regime has created one of the world's most effective cyber armies, which has caused chaos in the West by stealing classified U.S. information, hacking politicians' emails, and shutting down Georgia's internet during an invasion. Additionally, they attempted to sabotage Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign and launched propaganda campaigns for right-wing candidates in Europe to exploit and deepen political divides in Western democracies. The election of Donald Trump offers new hope for Putin's vision, as Trump's rhetoric has been notably soft on Russia. If he lifts sanctions and weakens NATO, it could pave the way for Putin's Russia to regain its status as a dominant power. Thanks for tuning in to our exploration of the myths and facts surrounding Vladimir Putin. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content on political figures and global issues.